Hi everybody, today we're looking at the song Sherlock Holmes by Sparks from their 1982 album Angst in My Pants, and I'm going to attempt to find out why Sparks are writing about this fictional detective. But let's not hang about, this is Sherlock Holmes.
Fog matters to you and me, but it can't touch Sherlock Holmes. Knows their breed and knows where they went last night, knows their masters too. Oh baby, hold me tight, just pretend I'm Sherlock Holmes, just pretend I'm Sherlock Holmes, just pretend I'm Sherlock Holmes.
In this song, Sherlock Holmes is painted as like the ideal man. He can do anything, he sees everything and nothing gets by him, but he's not the main character. The narrator is a man who really wants to be like Sherlock Holmes but can't live up to that. So there's a kind of sadness there. And this is a very Sparks character. For comparison, listen to this song from 2008.
She won't go out with me, no, she won't go out 'cause my intellect's paper thin. She won't go out with me, no, she won't go out since my intellect's not like him. So like the Morrissey.
That guy can't live up to Morrissey, just like our guy can't live up to Sherlock Holmes. And there's more, because Sparks seem to enjoy writing these references where the characters in the song don't live up to various icons.
So when did I get to sing my way? When did I get to feel like Sinatra? When did I get to sing my way in heaven or hell? So when did I get to do it my way? When did I get to feel like Sid Vicious? Edith Piaf said it better than me. Surely good to Leon, pretty song but not intended.
These are all songs featuring characters who compare themselves to icons and fall short. The main difference being that all of the icons here are musicians. But something interesting happens if you treat the lyrics to Sherlock Holmes as not being about a great detective, but being about music, just like these other songs. First, consider that Sparks' version of Sherlock Holmes seems to be a bit of a performer.
Oh yeah, I can dance like Sherlock Holmes. I can sing like Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes isn't known for singing or dancing, but in Sparks' world he excels at it. So he's a performer or a musician just like these other characters. So let's frame the rest of the song in that context, about making music.
Fog matters to you and me, but it can't touch Sherlock Holmes.
Okay, so let's start with fog. It matters to you and me, but it can't touch Sherlock Holmes. And yet, fog is synonymous with the Victorian detective. However, let's consider a different type of fog. Brain fog. That would matter to you and me if we were songwriters. Every artist fears creative block, but not Ron Mael, because brain fog can't touch him.
Dogs bark and he knows their breed and knows where they went last night, knows their masters too.
He has a kind of artistic superpower. Dogs bark and he knows their breed, as in he can get the full lineage of whatever he's hearing. So if he hears Oasis, he'll know it's the Beatles with a little bit of T-Rex thrown in. So I'm proposing that Ron Mael has cast himself as Sherlock Holmes in this song. Now there's a reason I think that, and it's not in this song, it's in another song from 2008. This is Strange Animal.
When the song lets me in, I can see where it's been. If it's broke, gives some hearts. If it's been in the charts, but this song shows no signs of a grander design. Entertain Mr. Hart, won't you know from the start?
That song's called Strange Animal, and it's about a creature who enters a song, criticizes it from within, terrorizes all the characters inhabiting the song, and eventually kills them all, discarding everything about the song except the chorus. And it works incredibly well as an allegory for the songwriting process. It's about Ron Mael's inner critic and what constitutes a final SPARKS song. And this character also has a Sherlock Holmes style instinct when it comes to music. When a song lets me in, I can see where it's been, if it's broken some hearts, if it's been in the charts. And that's how I imagine Ron sees his own talent. In a kind of comic narcissist way, it's his superpower. He has a complete understanding of music. And that's something that should be apparent given the mind-boggling number of genres that he's taken on. So brain fog or creative block doesn't affect him, and even the sound of a dog bark is enough to give him their breed. And this is an idea that they repurposed several years later. This is the 2013 version of Annette.
Schoenberg and Stravinsky lived close by in Bachelet digs. They escaped that Nazi shit, hoping for some US hits. Schoenberg's dog would bark all night. Igor called the police uptight. They said, tell us why you phoned. His dog's barking in 12 tones. I've got a lot in common with Dostoevsky. I've got a lot in common with Dostoevsky.
That's from a version of Annette that was recorded in 2013 but not released because they changed it into a film in 2020. And this part is from Henry McHenry's stand-up routine, and it's a verse that shows that when Sparks have a great concept, they almost never use it just for one time. It always comes back. For example, it calls forward to the song Stravinsky's Only Hits that came out 7 years later. It also has a chorus where the narrator compares himself to an icon. But the bit I'm focusing on is the gag where Stravinsky calls the police with a noise complaint because Schoenberg has a dog that's barking in 12 tones. And those 12 tones are the tones of a musical keyboard. It's all of the notes on a piano. So this dog bark is musical. And like the line, dogs bark and he knows their breed, it can refer to Ron's analytical ear. It's sound as data. So it seems like Ron has the same superpower as Stravinsky, which is apt because in the song Stravinsky's Only Hit, it talks about Sparks collaborating with Stravinsky. So dogs bark this musical bark and Ron knows their breed. But not only that, he knows their masters too, as in the songwriter. For example, he'd know that Schoenberg invented the 12-tone technique, which was a method where you did away with traditional scales and used all the keys of the piano. So to me, that's not just understanding the art, it's understanding the artist. And Sherlock also understands where the dogs went last night. And I've got a few videos that deal with a recurring theme of day and night, which I believe represents Ron having a hectic, busy daytime, but then going home and retreating and working on his music in complete isolation with complete creative freedom. So working at night feels like Ron's happy place. So if he knows where his dog went last night, then maybe that means that Ron is repurposing some of this music, taking influence from it and putting it into his own songwriting. And that line, "Oh baby, hold me tight," it sounds like a product of that songwriting because it's real pop music language. And I'll return to that later, but now let's go on to the next verse.
Stay, don't give me that same old act. I can call in Sherlock Holmes. He'll want your biography and pictures of you in lace and satin looking great. Oh baby, hold me tight. Spend the night with Sherlock Holmes. Hold me tight like Sherlock Holmes. Just pretend I'm Sherlock Holmes. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh.
I'm not even going to go into the surface reading of this because the idea of Sherlock Holmes being a kind of love guru who wants saucy pictures, well, where do you start? So instead, I'm going to focus purely on the meta, and that first line is stay. And that's a kind of opposite for Sparks, because another thing that comes up time and time again in their music is leaving.
And the tell me who's gonna leave. And you bid me adieu, and I leave you now.
Au revoir. What a way to say it. Au revoir.
Don't mind if I go out and not come back again. Bye 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 my baby. Bye 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 bye.
Leaving is a big recurring theme in Sparks' lyrics, but staying, not so much. And here they're saying stay, don't give me that same old act. And what's interesting is, in a way, they are giving the same act as their previous album. Angst in My Pants is a lot like Want That Sucker that came out the year before. And this was really rare for Sparks. They'd usually reinvent themselves album by album. Sometimes the change would be gradual and sometimes it would be drastic, but they'd always go somewhere new. But Angst in My Pants is a continuation of Want That Sucker. So this line can be saying that they want to do the same thing, but they don't want to be stale. And what's the answer to that? Well, they could call in Sherlock Holmes, who could act as a kind of script doctor. He could improve these songs with his musical superpower. And how will he do this? Well, first, he'll want a biography, as in a life story. And this brings us back to all the icons that Ron Mael has a habit of writing into his songs. Because in all cases, I think these references are to the artist rather than the art. For example, in What Are All These Bands So Angry About?, Beethoven, Coltrane, Lady Day and the other three are all people who had long careers which culminated in them producing masterpieces. And that seems relevant to a band like Sparks, who at that point were well past the age where their contemporaries retired or turned into nostalgia acts. And they're saying that they're capable of making a masterpiece rather than comparing themselves to the angry bands that were popular at the time. So the life story of these artists really figure into this music the Sparks are presenting to the world. So this line can be about Ron using his superpowers to truly understand the musical landscape and to put it into his own music. And it's not just a biography, it's pictures of you in lace and satin looking great. So this can be about understanding what that genre or style of music looks like at its absolute best. And then the next part of the song seems to list the many things that Sparks bring to the party with their music.
Do you want to have fun? Do you want a good time? Do you want it to laugh? Do you want it to cry? Do you want it to dance? Do
want to have fun? Do you want a good time? Now, that reads like a manifesto for this era of Sparks. And fun seems to be in their DNA.
I wish you were fun. I wish you were fun in every way. Well, isn't this a little bit like fun? Gee, that was fun. Funny face, I want a funny face. In the future, fun is fun. I'm gonna give you some fun. Sit and go and have fun. For months, for years, chits were once a source of fun and games at home.
Johnny was a soldier with a fun side. Johnny liked to laugh a lot each day.
Think about the places we've had our little fun. They're gonna stop Saturday night, so you better have fun now. I predict. Was it that you had lots of fun? When the laugh track starts, then the fun starts. Then the fun starts. Then the fun starts. Let the monkey drive. We can have our fun. Who says we don't have our fun above the DMZ? We assemble daily and we dance incessantly and we go dancing, dancing.
So Sparks are a fun band, and everything that Sherlock Holmes lists in that bridge section is relevant to Sparks. It says, do you want me to laugh, cry, dance, sing and joke? And all of these things appear over and over in Sparks' lyrics in prominent and impactful places, and it's because it's part of the fabric of the band. All of it is part of the performance. It's what they're presenting, and that way of looking at it compares well to this song from the year 2000. This is More Than a Sex Machine.
How should I look? What should I say? How should I move? What sense is conveyed? How much more than this? More than a sex machine. I've got much more to give. More than a sex machine.
They say, how should I look? What should I say? How should I move? What sense is conveyed? And this really reminds me of, do you want me to dance? Do you want me to sing? They can both be interpreted as Sparks contemplating how they present themselves to an audience. On the surface, More Than a Sex Machine is about an aging male gigolo, but it works really well if you think of it as being an aging male pop star forced to make commercial pop music by a record label who are just after hits. So when he says he's more than a sex machine, it can be poking fun at the idea that Sparks are a simple pop band, whereas on the follow-up album, Little Beethoven, it was clear that they were true artists. As they say, I've got much more to give, and that's something that was proven to be true when they were free from their record contract and allowed to make the music that they wanted to make. But back to Sherlock Holmes, it's a song with a sting in the tail.
Should I be more like you? Oh yeah, I can dance like Sherlock Holmes. I can sing like Sherlock Holmes, but I can't be Sherlock Holmes.
So this guy can sing like Sherlock Holmes and he can dance like Sherlock Holmes, but he can't be Sherlock Holmes, which I take to mean he can't live up to the amazing talent of Ron Mael. So it's a kind of hidden comic narcissism. But in which case, who's the narrator? Well, try this. It's also Ron Mael. My thinking is that Ron compartmentalizes the part of himself responsible for all this fantastic creativity. In a song like Falling in Love with Myself Again, or I Married Myself, he's writing about that part of himself with the musical superpowers. And here, Ron has decided to not give himself access to these superpowers. So why would he do that? Well, think about this era of Sparks. They were undoubtedly great, but consider how different it was to what came before. It was dumbed down, and proudly so. Both the music and the lyrics, on the surface at least, was way simpler than their earlier incarnations. And it's pretty clear that this was an intentional thing. Ron and Russell Mael decided to dumb things down. But how do you do that if you're a musical genius? Well, you just don't give yourself access to that part of your brain. So he's still got the musical talent, he can sing and he can dance, but something's held back. He could call in Sherlock Holmes to polish up these songs, but he chooses to suppress that. And all of this ties into a much bigger theory that I'm pushing on this channel. It's that Sparks have made a long career by doing something remarkable. They've been consistently putting out brilliant music that stands the test of time, and they've done this by always somehow falling short of their full potential. It's as if Ron realizes that creative longevity is a brittle thing, and so many artists fail just by aiming to do something bigger and better every time, or recapturing former glories. In More Than a Sex Machine, they say, I'm much more than this, and I've got much more to give. And I read that as them choosing not to give everything, to hold something back. They flourished as a band by putting severe restrictions on what they do. So there we go, that's Sherlock Holmes from Angst in My Pants, and on the surface, it's a great song. It's talking about how great Sherlock Holmes is, but crediting him with all these attributes that have nothing to do with the actual character. And underneath that, it's a kind of subversion of a love song where this male character just isn't good enough and he aspires to be better. But if you dig further still, it can be read as a profound comment on Ron Mael's approach to songwriting and Sparks' approach to performance. And that is to decide what they hold back, how they constrain their genius so they don't kill off this amazing creative streak. If Sherlock Holmes is the genius of Sparks, then he's holding them tight. He's constraining them in a way that has let this genius last. And that brings today's episode to a close. And if it's your first time viewing this channel, then coming to that conclusion may seem like a big leap. But what I'm doing here on Meta Sparks is attempting to show how every Spark song can match this template. Within these lyrics, you can always find out how and why Sparks are aiming to confound their audience. So if you found this interesting, even if you don't completely buy it, then I've got a ton of videos and I'd really love it if you could check out more of these. And I promise I come to really similar conclusions on every song I look at. So I'd like to give a heartfelt thanks for everybody who's stuck with this. And if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I'd love to hear all your comments. And I'll be back with you soon. So thanks. Bye.
Do you wanna have fun? Do you want a good time? Do you want me to laugh? Do you want me to